Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruach double honors, hails and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Ruach Brakatam. Salakia for the sun blare. It's just going to happen throughout this video. You know, can't control the weather. You know, as you know, Esau's the one controlling the weather because Most High is allowing him to use harp as a weapon. And as you know, fires are burning in Spokane. And we all know this is all geoengineered and that the chemtrails that they spray is all deliberate to cause these things to stay on fire. Yet, Amazon packages are spared. Yeah, they're still in the mailbox even though the mailbox is burned up. Yeah, how's that possible? See, this is all geoengineered, but that's what's happening in Spokane. As we know, about 18 states are being hit with, weather warfare, with heat waves by the likes which no one has seen before. And we know DJ Trump, called off the strike against Iran once again, Taco Tuesday, right? So he called off the strike against Iran, and of course, he licks the boots of King Bibi by the likes of which no one has ever seen before. We could say that, at least with Biden, okay, he did do some things for King Bibi, but not like Trump. Not even Obama. The P5+1 was signed under Obama. But Trump said it was a bad deal because he licked the boots of King Bibi. So this pedophile stuff, because they really wasn't going after Biden, even though Biden's just as much of a pedophile as Donald Trump, they really wasn't going after Biden during the, when all the Epstein stuff was coming out. They was mostly focusing in on Trump, but there's a reason for all that, right? Blackmail, it works, because again, the Democrats decided, go ahead and release the files because it comes against Donald Trump, even though they didn't want the Epstein files coming out either during the Biden administration, but it came out a little, but Biden was barely indicated. Well, Trump is doing everything to make that disappear, and King Bibi has been helping him, which explains everything as to why he's licking the boots of King Bibi, right? And most of all, though, he has sold the U.S. out. It's now the United States of Israel, in the essence of, the NDAA, and they're wanting to fast-track that NDAA, which merges the militaries to become one. They want everybody, in 3 weeks, there's going to be a draft. Yeah, the draft is coming in 3 weeks. So a lot of things are taking place, yet the stockpiles, were depleted as of a couple weeks ago. So that's going to be in the middle of this month too. That you're going to start to see shortages at the pump, and then about a week later, going into the draft, then people are going to get drafted. So, more uproars of the people, right? Because they have a fierce king and cruel lord over them. And yet at the same time, most are oblivious, right? You got these fires going on as a distraction, right? So that's reducing the population, causing, people to lose their homes, as if the bankers ain't bad enough foreclosing in on homes, but by burning it all, they can make you pay. Yeah, you have to pay to, get rid of the burnt pile over there, all the hazardous stuff. You got to pay for that, because that's what happens to the people over here in Car Fire. Which that was deliberately done. We know that was direct energy weapons, which, oh no, you're not supposed to talk about direct energy weapons, right? That's what you would call conspiracy theory, right? Yet at the same time, people over here are supposed to believe that it was a flat tire on a trailer that caused the Car Fire to happen and burn out of control like it did. Yet there were trees still in place while structures were burnt to a crisp. Yeah, it was a plan to burn California. Rothschild planned to burn California. But they have bigger plans, right? Of course they got to reduce the population. They definitely have to bulldoze and get rid of the houses. So what better way than natural disasters, right? Fires that they can control using the HARP system, right? Because it's well known that they've been using HARP for years. And they used a lot of this weather warfare also against Vietnam. That's where they really started using it a lot. Like I said, sorry about the sun blare. I'm doing what I can to make sure that it doesn't happen, but everything I do seems to, cause it to happen. See if I can pull the note. That just makes it worse. I'm trying. And nonetheless, though, Babylon the Great is being cut asunder, right? Because now they finally got an enemy they can't defeat. And they haven't even gone against Russia and China. They haven't a little bit in the essence of, okay, they're arming Iran, but Iran has the intelligence. Yeah, Babylon is getting its ass whooped by Iran, and they'll never admit it, right? They'll keep on saying we're going to blow up their power plants, we're going to blow up their infrastructure, but yet they don't even have the Navy to defend the Israeli state in case of Iranian retaliatory strikes against Tel Aviv, which hasn't happened yet, because, of course, like everything else, though, they have a strategy, too. Strike first, hit hard. Well, it's happening. Strike first, hit hard. As Kuwait just got bombarded. Yeah, as this goes into, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of this. Give me a second here.
Iran has just launched a drone strike at least one U.S. airbase in Kuwait. 3 drones striking into this U.S. airbase. Also, Iran struck a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Also, Iran announcing it shut down an MQ-9 Reaper as well that was flying in the region. This, as Donald Trump has been lying and saying Iran is begging to make a deal. Trump said, I was going to decapitate them and I was going to launch an attack that would be even more massive than the biggest attack in World War II, essentially Trump threatening to use nuclear bombs against Iran. Well, Iran has responded, and let's just go through what just has taken place in the past 12 hours. So Iran struck a cargo ship northeast of Al-Qasab, right in Oman. This is the second strike within 24 hours on a vessel attempting to pass through the so-called U.S.-backed southern route in the Strait of Hormuz. UK MTO confirming this incident with that tanker, with that ship, broadcasting on VHF 16, Mayday, Mayday. It's been hit by a projectile, and Saipan Navy, IRGC, was warning, do not use that route. And Donald Trump having fake negotiations with nobody, and Iran is upping the ante and saying, we know that you've run out of your Patriot interceptors. We know you've run out of your THAAD interceptors, and you have no Navy destroyers. Don't you dare threaten us with decapitation. You will see we will project strength and go on the offense and show that the U.S. security umbrella in the region is gone. Iran state media, both Fars and Tasnim, reporting these explosion and fires at least one U.S. base, though it looks like multiple bases in Kuwait have been struck, and we know a lot of those bases have already been abandoned by the United States with most of its equipment because there's no more interceptors, there's no more THAADs to protect it, and Iran has been just pounding those bases, both with drones and with ballistics. So yeah, Fars reported this, and Tasnim saying multiple sources are reporting a new series of very powerful explosions in northern Kuwait. According to initial reports, at least one U.S. base, maybe multiple, were directly hit. That's also now being reported by other media outlets. J-Post, I-24 in Israel, confirming these strikes as well. We've also learned...
So there you go, man. The hammer of the whole earth is being cut asunder, right? And they haven't even begun to fight Russia yet. They've been trying to fight this proxy war using Ukraine, but Ukraine's out of ammunition too. They can't fight Russia. They can't fight the bear. So, like everything else, though, the Most High is destining this, right? Because, this place, Babylon, has been a golden cup in the Most High's hands, and it's time, now for the Most High to punish Esau once and for all. So here we go. This is what's about to take place. World War III is right around the corner as they usher in the New World Order. Collapsing the economy deliberately on purpose. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 2. Declare this among the nations and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded. Merodach is broken in pieces, her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces, meaning that, they've run out of lies. They can't, everybody knows that Trump's nothing more than a paper tiger, and they've been able to penetrate everything. Now, Iran has adapted a Cobra Kai, strike hard, hit first policy, because that's all that Trump is a blabbermouth, a paper tiger. For out of the north cometh up a nation against her. This hasn't happened yet, but it's going to. And that nation's talking about Russia. Which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. they shall remove, they shall depart both man and beast, meaning that, okay, this place is going to be wiped out, you know, pretty much, yeah. The animals are going to go north and south and get out of this place, you know, hopefully enough of them, you know. It is sad, though, that our dogs ain't going to make it, you know, for those of us who still live in Babylon, you know, because, again, I've isolated myself from people in general, you know, because I'm a one-man camp, and so I pretty much, you know, except for the videos that I watch and interact there, you know, I'm pretty much, you know, spend my majority of time with my dogs. But like everything else, though, I know this place has an end. You know, and this is the end of Esau Edom, and I embrace it. That's why I go out here and teach, you know, as a one-man camp, and I keep doing in-home lessons every day, day in, day out, you know, praying that the Most High speed up the time, and we can see it moving. Verse 8, remove out of the midst of Babylon, go forth into the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. You know, and that's talking about Ezekiel 38. You can read about that. All these countries are going to all be aligned with Russia. And they shall set themselves in array against her, and thence shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert man, and none shall return in vain, meaning once they fire their missiles off. You see, like everything else, though, Trump has fucked off all the allies. And there's a reason for this, because the Most High is speeding things up. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Most High. So, like everything else, though, this place has an end date. And so what are they going to do? They know that this is going to happen, so they want to speed things up and get their New World Order implemented. So, like everything else, so, you know, they have a plan to burn a lot of states to get everybody into those 15-minute cities, and it's happening. You know, as Spokane, you know, it's getting hit by fire. Let me get past this commercial here. As Dabu 7 goes into.
Do you have any information in regards to the fires in Spokane? Well, we have metal mailboxes that have melted, but yet the Amazon Prime package inside is still there untouched.
Yeah, that's geoengineering.
Spokane, Washington is part of the 2030 agenda for smart cities and is listed right here on the map. You can also see that this level 3 Old Trails fire is rolling up on the neck of the woods of West Plain, right where the data center is scheduled to go. People are asking questions as to why the trees are still standing all over the place.
Like
and
car
the
fire.
metal has been melted in places, everything else destroyed. Again, houses, you can see here, reminds me of the Paradise Palisades, where the houses are burned down and the trees around them still standing.
Yeah, you forgot to mention car fire.
Like this vehicle getting torched and it being hot enough to melt aluminum and glass, but not hot enough to burn up the grass and the shrubbery right next to it. A lot of odd things start to stand out.
So, yeah, you know, just people, you know, just looking at it like, is this really just a wildfire? Is this just because of a heat wave, or are they controlling it with direct energy weapons, you know? That's no longer so chaotic, you know, when you see it right before your eyes. And you see the chemtrails every day. They can't fucking hide it. Yet these things still burn. And yet the mist from the burns is more than obvious. So we're living in a time where he's going to come, you know, having sparing none, right? You know, coming down and having great wrath. Against his own people, too, for that matter, you know. He doesn't care about the 99%, you know. They only care about the 1%. So, like everything else, though, you know, most are the 99%ers. It's only, you know, being 1% is not a very large a number now, is it, you know? That's why it's often referred to as the least of the flock. It's referred to as the least of the flock for lots of reasons. For one, Amalek is the most hated, you know, by the Most High. When it comes to his creations, that's the least of his creations, right? But meant to be an example, right? So, like everything else, though, you know, and they're being drawn into this war that, you know, they just have no exit ramp. They have no strategy whatsoever, you know, because Iran is wiping them out. Iran is kicking ass by the likes no one has ever seen before. You know, they're showing Trump as more and more of a blabbermouth, and you can see more and more how full of shit he is, you know, and, well, you know, that's raising a lot of problems back home, right? You know, because they're talking about the elections and all that, as if that matters. Look at how long Zelensky's been in power, even though, you know, elections should have come and he should have been out of power, right? So you don't think that Trump ain't going to do the same thing? Yeah, as far as the voting thing, it's done. It's over with. He's terminated. If it was a real system. But you see, he could stay in power under the war. Yet in 3 weeks, the draft begins, right? And not to mention all the stockpiles being depleted. Well, now you're going to see shortages. It ain't just about the price of gasoline. It's about whether you can get it or not, which makes the price even higher, as to whether you can get it or not. And when you have emergencies and all that, yeah, you need it. So people are going to have that dire need. Look at all the panic buying that happened in 2020, right? How much more with this? And I'm beginning to see panic buying even over this. Those that are paying attention are panic buying, like at Costco and other places, right? They're getting supplies because they know that this economy is shit. It ain't coming back. This war is never ending. It's a war that never ends. And Iran is kicking ass, and Trump won't fucking get off of King Bibi's boot. He's licking the boots, we never seen any president kiss the boot like Donald Trump. Now, Israeli state is always infiltrated, but not to the point that, the NDAA says to merge the militaries as one. So there's Babylon the Great is no longer a sovereign nation. It's now the Israeli states of Babylon, you could say. Or you could say the United States of Israel. And these people don't want to fight for it, but that doesn't matter because IDF is going to be rounding people up and sending them into war. Yeah, they're going to go to war. And there's going to be less and less U.S. soldiers over here to protect the people, because you thought that you were fighting for your country. You're fighting for Israel. You ain't fighting for your own country, and all of them, they're never coming back. Many are about to be slaughtered. They're leading many to the slaughter, and that's just it. The Most High has a controversy with Esau, right? Especially with Amalek. So he's getting everything ready. A new world order is taking place. But like everything else, though, when they get close to filling their new world order, Most High is going to send Yahushua declare the actual new world order where the Israelites rule the earth. See, I'm trying to get out of the, get it to where the sun blare doesn't happen. But like everything else, though, there's a time and a place for everything, and we're at the end of Esau Eden and the beginning of the building of the house of David. The 1/3, because 2/3 are going to be cut off. They're not going to heed this warning or anything. They're going to die with the Edomites, because like everything else, though, there's a time and a place for everything, and we're at the end. Esau is the end of the world. His kingdom is about to be destroyed, and they're burning everything down. They're torching everything. And we said that, just getting ways for the IDF to come in. These smart cities that are built up, these data centers that are being built up. So that way the IDF can have their way, So, while that's going on over there, Russia's getting ready to come up in array against Babylon, right? Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 4. We go over this all the time. And I'll turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws and bring thee forth all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with armor, and with a great sorts of armor. Even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Where they're going to be placed? Well, they're going to be placed in their soldiers, right? The U.S. is talking about ground invasion in the draft beginning, right? So they're getting ready to send in their forces. The moment that the U.S. tries to set boots on the ground is the moment that Russia starts putting their boots on the ground. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his troops, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guard unto them. See, they're not going to let Turkey fall. They're not going to let Iran fall. And they're all going to come up in array against Babylon to ultimately destroy her, And ultimately, they're going to fire their missiles upon this place, So, like everything else, verse 15. And thou shalt come from thy place of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding horses, a great company and a mighty army. And that's talking about Russia and all its armies, and they're going to be defeated by Yahushua and the angels when they come up against the land of Israel. Doesn't mean that he's defending the Amalekites that are there. No, they're going to be destroyed, but Yahushua has got a special plan for Gog and Magog, right? Because that's why the Most High is sending the Son of Man to come against Gog, the land of Magog, because nobody can defeat Russia. But the Most High, Yahushua, and the angels can. And thou shalt come up against the land of Israel as a cloud to cover it. Shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against the land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. And that's when Yahushua ultimately destroys Gog and all its armies, right? Because it tells you in verse 3 here that, that he's going to set himself against Gog in the land of Magog, right? Verse 2, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. So like everything else, so, Most High is going to destroy Esau, Edom on that side too. Because nobody can really defeat Russia and its armies, right? But Yahushua and the angels can. And say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So, like everything else, though, there's a reason for everything. And, when kingdoms are against kingdoms, is you got Esau on the side of Magog, and then you got Esau over here in Babylon. Ultimately, Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed, but so is the land of Magog, for that matter, And there's a purpose for all that, right? Because he's going to usher in the new kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. There is going to be a new heaven and the earth, and that's going to be the Israelites ruling over that. And then we're going to have our slave trades, and we're going to be in charge of being in those regions and selling our slaves over there, And ultimately, the Edomites are going to be the main slaves traded over there, So it's all happening. A new world order is coming. And it's the new world order of Yahushua and the Israelites. But first, Esau's going to try to establish his new world order. And then Yahushua and the angels are going to interrupt that, especially when Russia destroys that. Nobody else is going to be able to defeat Russia except Yahushua and the angels. So that's about what's to take place. And not to mention they are going to usher in the new world order and causes many that will not worship to be killed, right? That does not conform to the new world order to be killed. Ultimately because they're going to mandate that everybody get the micro C-HIP. And the ultimate price to pay for taking the micro C-HIP, especially here in Babylon, is that you'll be destroyed when Yahushua and the angels come. And when the missiles hit this place, ultimately. When this place, Babylon, becomes a lake of fire. So, like everything else, though, we tell you time and time again not to take the MOTB, which is the micro C-HIP. We tell you time and time again not to take it, that it isn't anything else, because once you do this, you're marked for death. So hopefully this has all been edifying. For that, I want to say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Wa Abal Babal. Brakathum, Jehovah elect, Shalom.